Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge, and today we got another recommendations video, and this is one I'm really excited, and I also feel like there aren't enough of these heroes, which I think makes the books I find with them in it very special. And I mean, as you'll be able to tell by the title, today we're going to be talking about submissive or beta heroes. I mostly mean submissive as in the sense of like BDSM submissive, but also who may just be more submissive in the relationship. But looking at the list that I have to share, I'm almost exclusively talking about the bedroom wise, whether this is in a menage situation, which we have a few of those, and I have a couple heroes who enjoy like pain as the submissive, although they may be more like dominant still in their personal lives. So there is a little bit of overlap with this in regards to like the BDSM video that I made recently, which I know a lot of you really loved and had really been asking for. But I just wanted to provide this video as something that's separate, maybe for people who, you know, just in general, just in search terms, if people are looking for submissive heroes. I have done one about cinnamon roll heroes. This is a completely different, they rarely like overlap in the same way anyway. So I just want to put that out there. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started, because this was really fun to put together. I really love submissive heroes, so this was a lot of fun. So first up, you know, let's just get the Katee Robert out of the way. Specifically in her Wicked Villain series, she has some where she has some menages, and in each of those menages there is a submissive male in the relationship, whether they're the only male or whether they are the more submissive of the two. And so I want to talk about those with you. The ones that are my favorite, because there is 3 submissive heroes in that series. I want to talk about Gaetan from The Beast, which this book is a menage, a BDSM menage between Beast, Gaetan, and Isabel, who, it's really cool in this story because both Beast and Gaetan were dating her at the same time, not in a menage situation, and they were both aware that they were both dating her, like this wasn't a secret. And at a certain point in the relationship, the men really wanted her to pick someone and she refused to do it, and so they all ended up kind of brokenhearted. Well, now it's been a little while, and both Gaetan and Beast have ended up in Hades territory, and they're frequent goers at his pleasure house, the Underworld. And so we have seen them in previous books before this, and now Isabel needs their help. She needs them to come back to her territory, and so she agrees to enter into a pleasure contract with them for this time. And Beast is definitely the dominant, although they both switch sometimes, but really Gaetan is the more submissive of the two, but he still is like a bratty submissive too, and so I really, really love that. I love this book so much. As with most of Katee's books, the biggest problem that I have with them is that they're not long enough, especially her menages where she has 3 characters. I always want more because I feel like I don't get enough from every character's perspective, but I love it. And then the other submissive hero I want to talk about is Alaric from The Sea Witch. So this is a female-female male menage, which it was the first one of those that I'd ever read before. This is between Alaric, Zuriel, and Ursa, the Sea Witch. And so Ursa is actually the dom in this scenario, and her and Alaric have actually had a relationship for quite a while. And then there is a virginity auction for Zuriel as kind of a, well, she's doing it for certain reasons, but actually it is Ursa wants to get a hold of her to kind of make her father pay. So a little bit of kind of a redundant plot to Hades, Meg, and Hercules book, but I really loved Ursa. There was something about her that I just really felt for her, and how much like burden she was taking on so that Alaric and Zuriel didn't have to. But I also really liked Alaric because this was someone who is so completely, like, he is in deep with Ursa, and he's totally great with being submissive to her and being her arms and hands and other bodily appendages to do what she wants done. And I really, really loved that about him. All right, then I have two historical submissive, or three that I want to talk about real quick. One of them is just a novella, and it's called The Devil's Submission. I can't remember the author's name right now. Nicola Davis. Oh, I just pulled that one out of nowhere. This one is only a novella, and I'm really sad about that. It's actually a trilogy of novellas. I haven't read the other two just because after reading the one and like I wanted more so badly, I just was like, I don't want to read two more books where I know that I'm not going to get what I want out of it. I'm kind of snobby like that. But this one is about a marriage. They've been married for a while. He is a submissive, and I feel like this is so tragic for him. So this guy, he helps run this pleasure club, but he's a submissive and he's always expected to be a dominant. So there are scenes where he like will have to be the dominant and he just hates it. So the reason why I like call him a submissive instead of a switch is because he hates being the dom, but it's what's expected of him. So it's only with his particular like mistress at the club that he's able to be honest and get that he needs. And the thing we meet at the beginning of this book is he actually has a wife. And this is great too. She's actually plus size and she's amazing. But she's been shamed her whole life for the wants that she has. And so he got a little glimpse of the kind of relationship they could have had. And then she basically ran away to the country. Well, now her family is in trouble and she needs some money. So her family wants her to go to her husband and get a loan for them. And he's just like, so at the audacity for her to show up and ask her something after like how things went down. But obviously this is a novella, so things get moving pretty quickly, and he's finally more honest about what he's needing from her, and I just really appreciated it. I love this kind, and like I said, I wanted it to be a full book, but it was really cool. It was really tight and quick, and so if you would like to read a historical BDSM, but you don't want to take on a really big one, or maybe you would like to try historical and a BDSM, or maybe you would just like to try a BDSM book, but you don't know where to start, I feel like this could be a really good one to do that because it's a novella, and because it is still set in like Victorian times or whatever, it doesn't feel dark and heavy the way that some BDSM books can feel. So there's that. Then I have to mention The Duke I Tempted by Scarlet Pekham. This is the first in a trilogy. Yes, I need to read book 2 and 3 because all three of them have BDSM in it and I want to read this. But this is about the Duke of Westmead, and he needs to remarry even though he doesn't want to. And then we have Poppy Cavendish, who all she wants to do is own her little nursery, and she has a plant nursery that she just wants to be able to own and be in control of. But she's a woman, and keeping her investments safe and keeping what she has safe is really hard when she's at the mercies of others. Now, this is another case of some things happen where these two are forced to marry, and we know this about our Duke from the first chapter. We see him he's submitting to his mistress. He goes to see someone, and he just despairs that he'll never find someone who does that for him. He actually is a widower, and he got into submission after he lost his wife and child. As a really young man, he like needed a way to like channel his rage, and for him, he channels his rage by being forced to submit to someone. So I feel like a lot of times you see in books where the dominant will channel their rage through having a submissive, which can be like pretty dangerous because you don't want to be doing BDSM in anger. But if you're the submissive, it can be really freeing for you. So he goes to a dominatrix to get that. And then when he's forced into marrying this woman, like he doesn't know how to share that he's part of a sex club. And not only is he part of this sex club, like he likes to get beat, and he doesn't know if she will be a dom for him. And this book is very, very angsty, but it was very sexy, and it was really fun. And though you just want to shake the two of them together, it is really believable to believe their miscommunication. Because that's a thing. In a lot of BDSM books, they have great communication, because you need to have great communication to have that kind of relationship. But by placing this in the time period that it's set in, this one's in 1750s, right? So this is like far, far back in there. There are so many other constraints. Like, there's enough constraints today about men being manly men. And you take this Duke who's supposed to be so in control of everything, and then he wants to submit. That's a faux pas in a lot of ways. But I love this book. I love it so much. And then I have one. This one actually isn't a BDSM. So I did find one of these where I considered the hero to be submissive in more bearing. So this is where I meant he's a beta hero. And I just wanted to bring it up because the woman in this, she's not necessarily a dom in any fashion. It's just she's the one with the control in the relationship. And so that's her Ladyship's Companion by Evangeline Collins. And this actually has a male prostitute in it. And he gets hired by this woman's friend to be her companion for a 2 weeks time. And there's some situations where, like, he's not the most manly man you've ever met. And there are some situations where he actually gets beat up because he's not the toughest guy in town, and he needs to use his brains and smarts to be able to eventually, win his woman and to provide for her, because he is a male prostitute. And if people find that out and were to share it about him, how would he be able to support this woman, who, by the way, at the beginning of this book, is married to someone else? So, but I wouldn't consider this cheating, and you would see why when you read the book. But, I mean, it is technically cheating, but number one, her husband is cheating on her, and number two, he's an abusive asshole. So I let it slide, and it didn't feel like cheating does in a contemporary book. Anyway, so, all right. Then I want to mention The Full Monty. This is by Sadie Heller and Ainsley Booth. This is book 3 in the Frisky Beaver series. I read this series out of order, so you can too. This is a menage. This is, these two men are both trying to court the same woman. And at first, like, we're just all cool with her having seeing multiple people, like, they know about each other. It's great. But actually, these two men used to have a previous relationship together. And the one guy who's dating the girl, he's dating her because he wants them to be in a menage together. And so I really enjoy this. And so the one guy in the relationship, he is a switch, and he really, really loves being told what to do by the other partner. And I love that so much. So he will be dominant sometimes, but he's only, like, dominant when he's told to be. So to me, that is like, you're still the submissive because the orders are coming from someone else. And I really, really loved this book. This series is all BDSM, and it's about, like, people in politics in the Canadian government. The first one's actually about the Prime Minister. And so there's that, like, we have to be kind of secretive, because if people found out about our dirty sex dealings, things could be awkward for us in our jobs. But this one's about bodyguards, so it's a little less. It's like, it's the Prime Minister's secretary and then 2 of his bodyguards that enter. And so it's really good. Then there is Giving It Up by Audra North. This is another novella. I feel like there is an inordinate amount of books that are about male submissives that are very short. And I don't know if it's because the authors don't know / aren't comfortable with writing a very long story about this. But this is another one that it needed way more story than it got. But I thought it was really fascinating. So this one's actually about a police officer who likes to submit. I think he's a police officer. Yes. And he's looking for someone to be his dominatrix. And this woman really needs the money. And so they agree to a contract where they'll see each other like 7 or 10 times or something, like every week. And so part of the rule is that they can't have sex, though, because he is a police officer, so he can't be paying for sex. Like, he doesn't want to mess that up. So, though he may orgasm sometimes, they're not going to have sex. He's just paying her to dominate him at the beginning of the story. So, this was really good. I really liked seeing a lot of his struggles. He also is in a place where he has a lot of responsibilities. So, getting in a relationship, let alone finding a relationship where the woman will dominate him, is just something that he can't take on. So that's why finding a woman to be his dominatrix and paying her weekly is like what he needs to do to make his life work. So this was a pretty good story. Again, it's because it's not long enough. And also the hero, I could just feel that he was a beta, right? And so this is one where it's like, I could tell that he's not an alpha, because there was a few situations where I was like, anybody else just would have handled that shit by now, right? But he like takes too long to get to some of the stuff. So that's why I can't always handle the submissives when they're not with someone who calls them on that bullshit, because I usually need it to be handled a little better. Then there is Sanctuary by Rebekah Weatherspoon. This is book 2 in her Beards and Bondage series. The series does stand alone pretty well. They mention other characters in each book, but if you'd read this out of order, you would be like hard pressed to pick out who the characters are that you read before. So you could read this in any order. Sanctuary is about this is a black woman. She's a plus size woman, and she's been a dominatrix before. She's currently a lawyer, and she's having some issues with a previous client who's threatening her. So one of her partners where she works, he's like, hey, how about you go stay with my brother in backwater nowhere for a little bit until things cool off and it's safe for you to come back. So his brother is actually on the autism spectrum just a little bit. His name is Silas, and they end up really hitting it off. She's pretending to be his girlfriend where they're staying, because he's like, my town will not believe that I just have a random woman staying with me, so you need to pretend to be my girlfriend. And they end up wanting to have sex, and it's really cool because he's on the spectrum. He's super blunt. That's like part of his like how he does it. So he's like, I really want to have sex with you. And she's like, I want to do that too, but I have some rules. Like, I need to be in control of the sexual situation. And he's like, sounds good, let's do it. And so it's actually cool because for him, he's never been a submissive before. And so I really like that. Like, he doesn't necessarily have tendencies of like, I'm ready to be a submissive, but because he likes this woman so much, he's willing to try things. And then she actually shows him that he really does like being submissive to her and the kind of pleasure that they find together. So really great. Then this one is a crossover from my BDSM book, my BDSM video as well. This is For Real by Alexis Hall. This is a male-male dom-sub relationship where the sub is almost 40 years old. He has been a submissive for a very long time. He was actually in a long-term relationship with his dom, and he thought he would be with this person forever. And so for the last few years, he's kind of just been wandering from dominant to dominant and kind of losing his love of the lifestyle. And then he meets this young guy who is only 19 years old and is learning to be a dominant, and they kind of hit it off. And I really, really, really liked this because I liked where the submissive was kind of like teaching the dominant things. Also, the older of the two, Lori, he really likes humiliation, but not in like really nasty, but he just really likes the humiliation of being bound up and things like that. And I just love this book so much. Like, I love it so much. This couple, this is one of the first BDSM books I read, and also one of the first male-male romances I read, and it just sticks with me. I still think about it sometimes. I reread it like every 6 months because I just adore it so much. And then the last book I want to talk about is actually a trilogy, and this is the new Camelot trilogy by Siera, Simone. So this is a menage relationship. This is actually supposed to be like the president of the United States, his first lady and then like the vice president are all in a kinky menage together. And the book starts at the wedding of the first lady marrying the president, or, you know, will be. And her wedding present is getting to fuck the vice president, because the president and vice president have actually been in a relationship together off and on for like 10 years together. They were in the military together. They have served in politics together. But the submissive, Emery, he doesn't want to be outed. And he is not ready to be married to Ash. And it's kind of heartbreaking. I love this trilogy so much. It's hard to read, though, I will tell you that. And not for, it's just so emotional. Simone writes some of the most emotional erotica you've ever read, because she does write erotica. The sex is the point. The relationships are the point. But this trilogy is glorious and painful and fantastic. It's amazing. And so Emery is on this list because Emery is a submissive, and their relationship, we get to see at different points, we get to see flashbacks of them and just like how long their relationship has lasted. And then we see them once I forgot what her name is. Blair? It's not Blair. But the first lady, like what she brings to the relationship, and that they like are meant to be a menage together, but they're in one of the highest up roles in the United States. And then there also is a magical element to this, because it's called New Camelot for a reason. There are elements of the myth and legend that you see in the story, which is fantastic. And yeah, it's an amazing story, and it will break your heart open and put it back together again, and it's amazing. So there you go. There are some submissive heroes for you. I hope you will give them a try. If you've never read Submissive Heroes before, maybe you'll give some of these a try. There's just something about it that gets to me. It gets to me. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this. I put out new videos 3, 4, 5 times a week. Make sure you check out my channel memberships if you would like to see videos like this one early, or have a live chat with me, or help me pick the topics for my videos. That's a super fun thing to do. So thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day. Bye.